حسنا فإن الله يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء فلا تذهب نفسك عليهم حسرات إن الله عليم بما يصنعون والله الذي أرسل الرياح فتثير سحابا والله الذي أرسل الرياح فتثير سحابا فسقناه إلى بلد ميت فتثير سحابا فسقناه إلى بلد ميت فأحيينا به الأرض بعد موتها كذلك النشور من كان يريد العزة فلله العزة جميعا إليه يصعد الكلم الطيب والعمل الصالح يرفعه والذين يمكرون السيئات لهم عذاب شديد ومكر أولئك هو يبور والله خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم جعلكم أزواجا والله خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم جعلكم أزواجا وما تحمل من أنثى ولا تضع إلا وما يعمر من معمر ولا ينقص من عمره إلا في كتاب إن ذلك على الله يسير. وما يستوي البحران هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه وهذا ملح أجاج وما يستوي البحران هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه وهذا ملح أجاج ومن كل تأكلون لحما طريا ومن كل تأكلون لحما طريا وتستخرجون حلية تلبسونها وترى الفلك فيه مواخر لتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
صلوات. کریم کرب و بلا معجزہ دکھا دیجئے، کربلا یاد بہت آتی ہیں بلا لیجئے. کریم کرب و بلا حسین آپ جو چاہے تو کچھ نہیں مشکل، تڑپ رہا ہے بہت کربلا کی یاد میں دل، تڑپ رہا ہے بہت کربلا کی یاد میں دل. پھر ایک بار مجھے کربلا دکھا دیجئے، کربلا یاد بہت آتی ہے بلا لیجئے. کریم کرب و بلا میرے خیال میں جب آئے ڈوکتے بازو، علم کو دیکھ کے آنکھوں میں آ گئے آنسو، علم کو دیکھ کے آنکھوں میں آ گئے آنسو. تڑپ رہا ہوں علم دار سے ملا دیجئے، کربلا یاد بہت آتی ہے بلا لیجئے. کریم کرب و بلا تمہارے روزے پہ آنے میں آج دقت ہے، مگر خبر ہے تمہیں مجھ کو کتنی چاہت ہے، مگر خبر ہے تمہیں مجھ کو کتنی چاہت ہے. میں سر کے بل چلاؤں گا بس صدا دیجئے، کربلا یاد بہت آتی ہے بلا لیجئے. کریم کرب و بلا ہے اشک آنکھوں میں اور खुदा से है मेरा मुझे बुलाएंगे कब आप करबला मौला मुझे बुलाएंगे कब आप करबला मौला कुछ आके ख्वाब में है मुझको आसरा दीजिए करबला याद बहुत आती है बुला लीजिए करीम करबो बला सलवा
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. Is it working? Can you try that?
اللهم صل على Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm thankful once again to the Mahdi youth for giving me another opportunity to join you all on this night. Inshallah, tonight we'll be commemorating the martyrdom of a close friend of Imam Hussein by the name of Habib ibn Madahir, alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. I'll start by asking you all to soften your hearts and join me in reciting the salam, Sayyid al-Shuhada, as we take our hearts to the lands of Karbala. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي علت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم جميعا السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Join me in closing your eyes and taking your hearts to the land of Karbala, where we see the scene of Habib ibn Madahir charging at the enemy as they wouldn't let Imam Hussein alayhi salam offer his prayers. Therefore he goes onto the battlefield in defense of him and fights valiantly until he falls to the ground. And what do we see? What scene do we see happening, unfolding before our eyes? Recite the loudest of your salawat, inshallah we can begin. Allah. Here is a friend that can give another life for you to live. Here is a friend who would see to your prayers as from his eyes light no longer flares. Here is a friend that runs towards spears, pierces through the very core of loyalty, coming out as the sharpest blade, learning from the likes of Abu Fadl. Just as iron sharpens iron, here's a friend, becoming a manifestation of a reflection so clear. There was a friend who your troubles paced to whenever your eyes embraced. There was a friend, a wish, and now a trace, the smell of blood, flesh, and the heaven's gates. The sound of orphans, hearts broken, and silence amid the atmosphere. How I pray you'd return at the moment, for they record you stopped like never before at his bloodied martyrdom, for another heartbreak before the break of dawn, and moments to noon for a picture a friend can't bear to see. Perhaps Habib was taken so that in the heavens he can mourn your tragedy, unlike Zainab, who to the courtiers of drunkards shall be taken, who upon elevated thrones are sitting while she sits on the floor, her eyes fixated upon your decapitated head. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Another short poem, inshallah, I'll be sharing for the servant of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam by the name of Joan ibn Huway, who initially was a slave to Imam Ali, and upon giving him to Abu Dhar, he followed in the footsteps and thereafter served Imam Hassan, and after him served Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The poem goes, how fragrant is your scent, a slave to his master, a man of great strength. The legacy of loyalty follows in his footsteps, as his movements echo the etiquettes of Abu Dhar. An end with the household of Muhammad, the only definition of life he'd found. For service to their household has found him old, yet his spirit ever fluorescent, a graceful scent accompanying him wherever he went. Maybe alongside his master he was sent to perfume the lands of Karbala for Hussein's descent. Seeking permission, he remembers his tainted soul. Hussein consoles him, just as he consoled us all. Leaving Hussein, he rushes on, a lion in the flesh. Each strike of his, another to hell is sent. They make a cry, surround him, can't you see his back is bent? In a fright they face each other, wondering what is the cause of his prowess and fearless grit. For a hand in the service of theirs never yields, and a back bent in their cause acts as a shield. From every angle they strike, as cowards do when faced with a lion's strike. Hussein rushes to his beloved Joan, his cheek pressed upon his cheek. Who can compare to you and your desirable ends? The beloved at the lover finds himself, as his skin scattered across the heavens, as upon his body angels descend. A darkened soul, powered by resolve, a slither of light that made his master hold him in his arms. An embrace filled with compassion, no mention of a superior race. Look how he holds him, every moment his eyes go dim. Pray he must, holding him firm. Is this his master or his father? I can't discern. Is this his master or his father? I can't discern. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. We begin by sending our deepest condolences to the Imam of our time and to all of you as we gather once again to remember the tragedy of Karbala and the sacrifice of Imam Hussein. For this Muhurram, we are joined by Sheikh Salim Yusufali and we are honored to have him join us from San Jose, California. A reminder that our nightly programs continue for 11 nights throughout the first Ashura of Muhurram. And the schedule is as follows. So at 7:45, we'll start with Quran recitation, followed by the Salam and Marcia. Then the majlis delivered by Sheikh Salim Yusufali, titled The Great Deceivers, and concluding with Noha and Ziyarat. Let us all arrive on time and maintain the sanctity of the space during the program. We also request that when arriving and leaving, you follow the instructions of the parking lot team in order to make the process easy for everyone. As you know, these programs are only possible through your generosity, and we are actively looking for sponsors. So Majlis sponsorship is around $400, and the Sabil sponsorship is around $200. To contribute, please visit the Mahdi Youth booth near the brothers or sisters entrance, or contact the number on the screen. If you would like to speak privately with Sheikh Salim, you may book a one-on-one session through the front desk. Whether for personal advice or further discussion, slots are available on a first-come, first-served basis. Mahdi Youth is proud to launch our exclusive Muhurram long sleeves shirt, available for $25, and all proceeds support youth programming. And you can visit the My booth after the program to purchase. Just a reminder for tonight's brothers only discussion with Sheikh Salim Yusufali. This hour-long discussion will take place in the My Lounge basement at 10 p.m. And please note that this discussion is ages 14 plus, and we hope to see you all there, inshallah. The topic covered will be tools for spiritual growth. For these discussions, we gave the option for you to vote on the topics that are discussed through a poll. The links can be found through our socials or at the booth desks. And the upcoming dates for these discussions are as followed. So the sisters have it on July 1st and the co-ed discussion on July 2nd. There's a parallel children's program each night in the basement for ages 4 to 11. Parents are encouraged to bring their children there, where they'll participate in age-appropriate programming during the English lecture. Let us also be mindful and patient with our youngest attendees and their families, so we can foster a welcoming environment that nurtures their connection to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, inshallah. And now, please recite Surah Fatiha for the following marhumin: Marhum Sayyid Asad Jafri, Shaheed Haider Ali, Jafar Hassan, marhum of Abida and Bakhir family, and all of our muhimin. Fatiha. We kindly ask everyone to please stand up and move forward and make space for others behind you. Let us now welcome Sheikh Salim Ali Yusufali to the minbar with 3 loud salawats. Allah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين وسيد المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين
ولعن الله الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى قيام يوم الدين. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Respected elders, brothers, sisters, we thank Allah for this honor and opportunity to be present in a majlis commemorating the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. May Allah reward you all for your good intentions in organizing and sponsoring and participating in this program. We hope that the Imam of our time is pleased with us, and we hope that we can be counted as those who mourn with him, as definitely in these days and nights his heart is heavy due to, of course, the current events that are taking place, and also as he remembers what happened to his grandfather. In order to attract the special attention of Allah and in order to please the Imam of our time, please recite one more salawat. The topic for our series is surrounding the Quranic term which is known as al-ghurur. Al-ghurur means deception. Not just any type of deception, deception which harms somebody. When they get deceived, they do something to harm themselves. And we're inspired to choose this topic from that one report that when Imam Hussein alayhi salam is speaking to the enemy army on the day of Ashura, he quotes an ayah from the Quran where Allah speaks about the great deceivers. Allah says, Inna wa'adallahi haqq. Indeed, the promise of Allah is true. فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. Let not the worldly life deceive you. وَلَا يَغُرَّنَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورِ. Nor should you let the great deceiver deceive you. So what we've been doing is looking at this concept of Quranic deception, meaning that when Quran warns us about being deceived, how does it inform us about this? What are the techniques that Satan uses to get us into a type of deception where we think that we're doing the right thing, we think we're on the right path, but actually we're taking a path in which we're harming ourselves? We looked at the topic of distorted reality, and then we looked at the topic of taswif or procrastination. And the latest topic that we're covering is that in which Shaitan enters into our relationships and he causes those relationships to be sabotaged. This derives from different ayahs in the Quran. One of them is where Shaitan takes an oath. He says, Rabbi, bima aghwaytani, O my Lord, on account of how you have misled me, لَأُزَيِّنَنَّ لَهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. I will do something. I will definitely, he takes an oath, I will definitely go and make things attractive to them in the earth. وَلَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ. And I will definitely, I'm taking an oath, I will definitely deceive them in that way. أَجْمَعِينَ. All of them. إِلَّا عِبَادَكَ مِنْهُمُ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. Except for those of your servants who are the chosen ones. They will not be deceived. They will not be subject to this trick and this game of Satan. This is a pretty weighty oath that Shaitan is saying that one of the things he's going to do for us is make the bad seem good. He's going to make the ugly seem beautiful, and we're going to be pushed and pulled towards that direction of taking a path of ugliness, a path of evil, thinking that it's something which is good. One of those areas in particular where we see him actively doing this is in relationships. There's a story that's told, and it's repeated in many books of Islamic ethics, that one time there was a man who goes to, this was back in the days, he wanted to buy a slave from the slave market. This is back when they used to have them. So he finds a slave that he thinks is going to be very good for the purposes that he wants. He has exactly the right qualities that he's looking for. And he makes an offer, but the person he's making the purchase from, he says that just let me tell you one thing, that he has a negative quality. His negative quality is that he likes to tell tales, and he likes to incite dispute amongst people. He thinks to himself, he says that, well, I'll live with that, right? I'm getting what I need, I'll live with that. And he brings him home. Soon enough, the slave goes to the wife of this man and tells her that, your husband doesn't really love you, but I know that you love him. And so if you want, I have a way for you to regain his love. All you have to do is cut off some hairs from his beard and give it to me, and then I'll have some spells or incantations that I can do, and everything will be fine between the two of you. She says, oh, really? Okay, tell me, how can I do that? Because it's not so easy to just go and cut off somebody's beard. He says that no problem. At night when he's asleep, just take a razor blade and do what you have to do. She says, okay, fine. Then he goes to the husband, and he says that, do you know that your wife, she doesn't really she has plans, right? And she actually is plotting to do something against you. If I were you, tonight, I wouldn't maybe fake that you're asleep, don't actually fall asleep, and see what happens. So, what does he do? That night, he's pretend sleeping, and she is going to go on this mission trying to regain the love of her husband through these esoteric means. She goes, she takes the blade and raises it, right? He's waiting for this moment. He realizes that, okay, maybe what he said was true, and he gets very angry, and he gets physical, and eventually he ends up killing his wife. And now it's a big deal because the husband killed his wife. Her tribe gets involved, and they get they get their weapons, they come home, they storm home, and they end up killing the husband as well too. What happened, right? All because of a few words that were completely out of place, that had no grounding in reality, that were taken up and blown way out of proportion, and suddenly you have two people who are killed, and you have enmity for years and years afterwards between these two tribes. Now, brothers and sisters, there's modern versions of that as well. And if we have to be real with what's happening, and we can't close our eyes to the reality that we're facing. I mean, we live in Western society in which the family is breaking down, and we are not immune to this. We don't need to go through all these sophisticated ways of bringing that home. Sometimes it can be done with verbal abuse, with physical abuse. Sometimes it can be done with a complete lack of tolerance, complete lack of patience. Sometimes it can be done with attitudes. I was talking to somebody in a different city who was very, under a lot of pressure when it came to his family relationship, and he says that my spouse has somehow gotten this impression that the way she can be successful in our marriage is, and I'm saying this, but it can apply to the other way as well, right? He says somehow the way that she can be successful in the marriage is by having the attitude of don't give an inch. If you don't give an inch, then you're going to be successful. Okay, well, I mean, if that's the way you're going to approach family life, then you don't need to have this renegade slave who's doing all these things, right? That itself is going to be enough to cause the type of conflict. We have a hadith, which is narrated in the books of hadith, in which it says that one of the acts of Satan is to set up his throne. And what he does is he gets reports from his minions. And he asks them, what did you do to accomplish your purpose? What is their purpose? Is ighwa and deception and sabotaging people in different ways, taking them away from the path of Allah. And the narration says that one of them will report and says that I did this thing, and Iblis will not be impressed by that. Another one will say that no, I did this thing. Iblis is not going to be impressed by that. And a third will come and he'll report back and he says that I went to that person, I went to that man, and I was the reason for how and why he ended up separating from his family. And when Iblis hears that, he'll say that, Ni'ama anta, how good you are. Right? Why? Because this is what Iblis is setting out to do. He wants to do what's called nazgh. He wants to sabotage those relationships because he knows that if somebody wants to get close to Allah and somebody wants to take the path of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, and they want to be honored in the eyes of the Imam of their time, then one of the ways of doing so is by riding the challenges of family life and successfully navigating them. Not that the slightest thing happens, the slightest friction happens, they drop it all and they say that, okay, well, if that's what it's going to be, then I'm done with this. That's not the path that the Ahlul Bayt wanted from their followers. Please say, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, this affects everyone in this room because everyone has connections, everyone has families. And it's important that we prepare for this and we learn those techniques. One of those techniques which is very important, is to gain a proper understanding of the system that Allah has placed to govern our relationships and to commit ourselves to that system, which is known as the system of huquq. I spoke about it last night. I mentioned that one of the things that sometimes is ignored is that no matter who you are in a relationship, there are certain common huquq, common rights that must be observed, irregardless of the situation. Even if it is the most senior person in that relationship and they're speaking with the most junior relationship, there's no grounds for them to abuse these types of huquq. We spoke yesterday about respect. It's not okay for anybody in a family to disrespect somebody else. Even if they're trying to teach them, they're trying to guide them, they're trying to point out their errors, they're trying to, let's say, discipline them in some cases if they have to, but they cannot do so in a way which is disrespectful. That is outside of the fold of, it's prohibited in Islam. The other thing we talked about is the importance of being ready to help one another. Tonight, inshallah, I want to cover 3 or 4 other of these shared huquq, which are so important for our relationships. Please say salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The first one, brothers and sisters, is known as, in some languages we use the word minnat or mannat, meaning that when somebody does something for somebody, if they then go and lord it over that person, or they rub it in for that person, or they have expectations that come from doing something for somebody else, that is something which is prohibited in our Islamic teachings. We know that having families and having relationships involves, giving and also taking, but involves giving. And sometimes the giving is more than the taking, depending on what somebody is doing. One of the techniques of shaitan is to come to somebody and say that now that you've done something for somebody else, now you have a special haqq over them, where now they have to like do something for you, or else you have the right to, for example, disrespect them, or you have a right to, like, let's say, not fulfill other rights that they have on you because of whatever reason. We can see this in the Quran very clearly when Nabi Musa alayhi salam is challenging Fir'aun. How is he challenging him? Is he going and making fun of him? Is he, let's say, disrespecting him? No, Nabi Musa alayhi salam is going, and the Quran says that he's speaking qawlan layyina. He's speaking words of compassion. If you look at the words of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, he's speaking logical things. In response to that, what does Fir'aun do? Fir'aun responds to him and he says that قَالَ أَلَمْ نُرَبِّكَ فِينَا وَلِيدًا. Musa, you're saying these things, right? Are you forgetting? Weren't we the ones who did your tarbiyah and we raised you and we provided for you when you were a child? وَلَبِثْتَ فِينَا مِنْ عُمُرِكَ سِنِينَ. And then you were with us for so many years of your life, right? Think about, like, in modern terminology, it'd be like, what was the living cost of all those years, right? Your monthly expenses, right? Like, we gave you this much square footage, we give you all these things, right? All the time that we spend with you, all those things. What is he doing, right? Instead of listening to the words of haqq and trying to understand haqq, Fir'aun's approach is to hit below the belt, right? He's saying that I did this stuff for you, and now therefore you have no right to challenge me in this thing right here. This is dangerous type of thinking, brothers and sisters, right? It's disallowed from an Islamic perspective, but it sometimes creeps into our relationships. We see this, right? One party does something for another one, and then when the other party, let's say they have a legitimate sort of claim against them, they're like, oh, I did these things for you. Why are you saying these things? Now, there are times where it's important for us, somebody has to speak up and they have to share, they have to like clarify. For example, somebody might be accused of not doing anything, right? Sometimes, for example, we might expect so many things from our spouse or so many things from our child or our parent, whatever. And we think that, let's say, they're just spending their time doing idle things, but then they come and they say that, let me explain to you what it involves, what I do, right? Sometimes, we think that we're mistaken. We think that only somebody who's doing a job outside of the home is doing a job. Or oftentimes, the type of work that's involved in raising children and taking care of the home is very intense and it's very time consuming, especially if it's done properly. So we have to be, at times, speak out and say, no, this is what I have done. But that doesn't mean that it gives that person a right. This is a deception of shaitan, where they start to think that now because I did that thing, now I have a right over you to command you in a certain way or to disrespect you. So that's number one. Number two, brothers and sisters, is something which is known as hasad. Hasad is typically, we translate it as jealousy or envy, typically jealousy. Hasad means when somebody sees something that somebody else has and they wish that they didn't have it, right? Because they feel that they're more deserving of it, or they would like to have it, or that that person is more low, and whatever it is. There's different reasons for why somebody would want that. And a lot of times we might think of hasad in a simplistic way. We think of it as being like, oh, somebody has a nice car, or they have a nice job, or a nice home, and I don't want them to have it, right? And that is something which is very dangerous type of thinking. It can challenge a tawhidi perspective. It can lead to our iman being burnt away faster than fire burns away wood, according to hadith. But brothers and sisters, there's a type of hasad which is found in relationships which is very sneaky. And it's very interesting that we have advice and guidance from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam regarding a special type of hasad which is in relationships. Let me quote to you a hadith which is from Amir al-Mu'minin Imam Ali alayhi salam, who said salawat. He says, ما رأيت ظالما أشبه لمظلوم من الحاسد. He says that, let me tell you about somebody who is an oppressor, but I've never seen anybody who looks more like somebody who's oppressed than the one who's the oppressor. It's really interesting. At times, somebody can even be convinced that they themselves are oppressed where they can be the biggest oppressor. How? He says, نَفَسُهُ it's min al-hasid. He said it's the one who has jealousy. نَفَسُهُ دَائِم, meaning that person is always sighing. They're always sighing, right? He said, وَقَلْبُهُ هَائِم, they're always like worried in their heart. وَحُزْنُهُ لَازِم, meaning their grief is always with them. It never separates from them. Have you ever seen somebody like this in a family where they're always the one who's the oppressed? They're always the one who is like sacrificing for others, or at least they think they're sacrificing. They feel that they're the one who are always taking the heat and bearing all the blows. Now sometimes there is somebody like that and they're legitimately being subject to dhulm from other people, and that's wrong. But brothers and sisters, there's a special trick that sometimes shaitan plays with us. It's called, in modern terminology, sometimes they use the word victim mentality, where shaitan wants somebody to permanently stay in this state of victimhood. So shaitan comes and says that, the other person is, you don't like what that person has or what they're doing, right? So act like the victim. So you go to them and you say, what's the problem? They're like, yeah, that person's oppressing me. Okay, well, have you talked to them about that? Have you discussed what the issue is? No, I'm oppressed, I can't talk, right? So this goes back to what we talked about, like the silent treatment, and yesterday, like that's something which we're not allowed to do, to have that silent treatment. And then you're like, okay, well, right, you're not talking to them, right? Then what do you think? You think that that it's worth maybe getting some counseling or trying to sort this out? They're like, no, this is never gonna change, okay? Now imagine that somebody could think that a problem cannot change, right? After all, who is musabbibul asbab? Who is in charge of every single thing that happens in this universe? Everything that falls from the sky, everything that goes up to the sky, every wet and every dry, every single thing is in the book of Allah. How can somebody ever say that a problem in a family cannot be solved? Right? This is questioning the authority of Allah. So this is very tricky and subtle, where somebody, the reason why they're acting like this is not because they're actually madhloom. It's because they don't like that somebody else has something that they don't have. And this comes up all the time. You might have a family member who sees another family member, finding happiness doing something, but they themselves don't have that happiness. So they say that, okay, well, I'll use this technique and act like I'm the one who's being hurt here in order to somehow solve the situation, or just whatever. It's a type of dependency that's created. Or, somebody sees that person isn't as needy as they were before. Sometimes this is a natural thing, that as people get older, they get more mature, they might not need, for example, their parents as much. They still need them very much, but they don't need them as much. Now the parent might feel that, my child doesn't like me anymore, and so therefore they might get into this thing that I've been oppressed by my child, where that's not the case, right? The child, this is a natural sort of thing, right? We don't need to necessarily, have that same level of connection, because alhamdulillah, because of the efforts of the parents in raising them, now the child is more independent. This is a very logical thing. But practically, we see a lot of issues come back to this thing right here. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So brothers and sisters, we talked about two of those rights that are shared. One of them is that of not being subject to minnat, or where somebody lords something over somebody. The other one is that hasad, meaning that it's not allowed Islamically for somebody to act according to jealousy that they have and oppress people because of that. And one of the ways of oppressing people is by permanently being in a state of victimhood and not wanting to get out of that. And the third one I'll mention before wrapping up our discussion is the importance of sidq, or truthfulness. We know that Islam is a religion which teaches us to speak the truth and nothing but the truth. Doesn't mean we have to speak all of the truth in all situations. We know that, it's important to have tact. When do you say what you say? But when we do speak, we have to speak the truth. One of the things that comes up in family life is that there are times where, unless somebody is a ma'asum, they make mistakes. And later on, they are confronted by a family member and they're told about the error of their ways. In that moment, it's natural that a human being is tested, and it is a special case where shaitan is present and cheering this person on. What is shaitan saying? Shaitan is saying that, how dare this person point out the error that I made in the past? Let me teach them a lesson about what their place is and what my place is right now. Whereas, what is the Islamic position on this? Islamic position is that if I'm a Muslim and I commit myself to Islamic principles, whenever I see the haqq and I see I'm on the path of the batil, I change my position. In fact, I thank that person. I say, thank you so much for pointing out the error of my position and my way. I accept the haqq and I go with that. At the very least, right, that is a time where that person, if they can't get themselves to thank that person and accept the truth, at least they should remain silent and not use it as an occasion to attack that person. But how often we see that this itself can be a point of such conflict when somebody is pointed out the error of their ways or the errors of their judgment, because they feel that it goes back to a type of arrogance within them, or even deeper, it goes back to a sense of lack of worthiness. They feel that their worthiness is being challenged because they made a mistake. Brothers and sisters, we have to realize that al-haq is Allah. We are created in a way where we're imperfect. We at times seize paths of ignorance, but Allah in His mercy guides us back to the path of haqq. Sometimes those words can come from the youngest person in our family, our youngest brother, our youngest sister. Our child can sometimes point out the error of our ways. This is part of the guidance of Allah. God forbid that at this time we should say no and refuse to accept that haqq. Finally, brothers and sisters, as we're getting to an end for this portion of the speech, I wanted to say that there is a general strategy which Islam teaches us for how to navigate our relationships in an effective manner. And that strategy in Arabic is called mudarah. And this term is so important, and it's something that we should ideally have seminars where we talk about this and open it up, because our Prophet has said that half of Iman, meaning half of being a mu'min, is knowing how to deal with others with mudara. What is mudara? Mudara has three components. Number one is that when we deal with others, believers, especially family members, we should deal with them in a gentle manner, not in a harsh manner. There is very little room for being harsh with family members. Even when, let's say, we're trying to guide somebody who is going the wrong way, they're making mistakes, right? The path of love and compassion and being firm is much more effective than the path of harshness. So number one is the path of gentleness. Number two is being strategic, meaning that there are times where we need to speak and do something, and many times it's much better to not say something. After all, right? Sometimes it's embarrassing for somebody to be told about their problems. What's more important is for them to understand that the mistake that they made, and next time they won't make it. And a lot of times these things can happen without even exchanging a single word. So being strategic about what we say when we say it, thinking about it. And the third one is the importance of connection. Islam teaches us that if you want to be able to influence other people, you have to be able to connect with them. And inshallah, if we get a chance, we'll speak more about this, but this is particularly for the parents and even the children here, that at the end of the day, right? People have hearts, and if there's no heart-to-heart connection, just barking words of commands and expectations and then going into this victim mentality, it's going to yield very little results. But if we're able to connect, that's when we can actually enact change. I'll end with a quick story. This is from a story narrated from our ninth Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Jawad alayhi salam. This is such a beautiful story. There was one of his companions who writes him a letter, and he says that I have a problem. My father is a nasibi. My father is somebody who hates the Ahlul Bayt. What should I do in this case? Should I cut off from him? Or should I do mudara? Meaning, should I take the path of gentle and strategic connection with him in order to achieve a desired result, which is the path of the Prophet, the akhlaq of the Prophet. The Imam responds to him. He says that you should know that I'm making dua for you. And your path forward is the path of mudara. Don't be harsh with him. Be strategic. Go along with him. At times, point out his errors. Then he says, number 2 is be patient. Right? You're not going to get quick results. But innal aqibata lil muttaqin. The good outcome is for the people of taqwa. Number 3, he tells him that inna ma'al usri yusra, that with difficulty there's ease as well. Number 4, he tells him that you should remember at all times you are under our wilaya and the wilaya of Allah. This hadith is so golden. I feel like we could spend a whole lecture series just opening up each part of that. But I'll leave it at that. What happens in the hadith, it says that that man receives the letter. He takes the instructions of the Imam to heart. And later on, he reports back to the Imam. He says that my father had a change of heart. Right now, he is one of your most ardent supporters and followers. And everything I tell him, he does. Who was this? This was somebody who was a hater of Imam Ali alayhi salam, but he turns into the biggest supporter of Imam Jawad alayhi salam. Brothers and sisters, right, when we're dealing with people who are Shias, lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, if he can do it with the Nasibi, then definitely if we take this path with followers of the Ahlul Bayt, inshallah we will be successful. Please recite salawat. Brothers and sisters, tonight we are in this 5th night of Muhurram, we are commemorating the martyrdom of 2 of the senior companions of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Muslim ibn Awsaja and Habib ibn Mudahir. Both of them were companions of our Prophet. They were companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Muslim was known for his connection with the Quran, and Habib was one of the Ashab al-Sir, one of the elite companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And when they entered into the battlefield in Karbala, they were among the most senior. But we see that throughout the ages, that despite their seniority and their elderly ages, they are renowned for their contribution and their bravery. And this is something which is an important lesson for all of us, that in Islamic teachings, there is no age of like retirement and I'm done with kind of doing what I have to do. Yes, of course, there are times when people have different responsibilities. One time they have to go and work every single day. Another time they need to, let's say, stay home or whatever it may be. That's fine. But there's no age where we give up on working towards our ultimate goal, which is to be the perfect servant of Allah. And as long as somebody is always striving for the utmost in terms of excellence of their ethics, they are considered to be a fatah, meaning somebody who is chivalrous, somebody who is noble, somebody who is youthful even in their old age. And this is what we see in the likes of Muslim and Habib, that when it came to their passion for goodness and excellence and going beyond, they were exemplars. Their age did not hold them back in terms of being those servants of Allah. We know that they were both present in Kufa, and both of them were being persecuted by Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, but they were amongst those few who were able to escape from the city, and they joined the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala itself. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Sallallahu alayka ya ibna Rasulillah, Sallallahu alayka ayyuha al-madlum المقتول عطشانا بكربلاء. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon you, O ship of salvation, O lantern of guidance, O master of martyrs, O Hussein, peace and blessings be upon you and upon your noble companions who are buried with you in Karbala. We say to them, if only we could have been with you and attained that great victory that you attained. We can imagine when these two great companions of Rasulullah and Amirul Mu'mineen were entering the camp and they were joining the companions of Imam Hussein, that Sayyidah Zainab might have been happy to see these elderly men that she remembered from her childhood joining the army of Imam Hussein. Habib ibn Mudahir was very dear to Imam Hussein. He had a special position among the companions. On the day of Ashura, he was in charge of the left-hand side of the army. At times, Imam Hussein wanted to make a decision. He would consult Habib. He would ask him his opinion. On the night of Ashura, Habib goes to Imam Hussein. He asks him, "O my master, would you allow me to go to my tribe, Bani Asad, and recruit some soldiers so they can join us tomorrow when we fight the enemy?" Imam Hussein tells him that, "Go, Habib, see what you can do." Habib goes to his people. He gives a passionate speech. Many of them are convinced. They join him, but there's a spy amongst them who informs Umar ibn Sa'ad. That contingent is intercepted by some of the soldiers of Umar ibn Sa'ad. Habib has to return alone. Maybe he's thinking to himself that Imam Hussein will be disappointed with me. I thought I could bring some more support, but I'm coming back alone. But when he goes to Imam Hussein is so forgiving, so compassionate. He tells him, "Oh my master, I wasn't successful." What does Imam Hussein tell him? "La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim." "Oh Habib, there is no power or might except with Allah. Allah is the one who is great. Allah is the master. Everything that happens is with His permission and is in His control." The next day, as they're getting ready to fight the battle, Muslim ibn Awsaja was there with Imam Hussein. Habib is with him. They are fighting the enemy army. At a certain point, Muslim is attacked by the enemy. He falls to the ground. The enemy is very happy. Muslim was somebody who had so much reputation. They are gloating over their victory. But one of them tells him that, "Do you know what you've done? You've killed somebody who is one of the bravest of all the Muslimin." He would be fighting the enemies in the earlier battles before the Muslim ranks were even ready. Imam Hussein alayhi salam rushes to the side of his old friend Muslim. Habib rushes to the side of his old friend Muslim. They are now perched by the side of Muslim. Imam Hussein alayhi salam makes a dua. He says, "May Allah have mercy on you, Muslim. What an excellent man you were." Habib ibn Mudahir, he turns to his old friend who is now breathing his last. He asks him, "O Muslim, do you have any advice for me? Do you have anything that you want me to do for you?" What does he tell him? He says that, "O Habib, fight and do not let yourself live and do not let him be killed before you are killed. Usika bihadha, my only advice to you, O Habib, is that you be with the Imam of your time, never leave his side." Habib ibn Mudahir takes the advice of his friend seriously. Habib, at one point, he sees that there is a man who is making fun of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He's telling him that, "You want to pray? How is it that you expect that your prayer will be accepted?" And Habib retorts, he says that, "Are you telling me that you think your prayer will be accepted and the prayer of the grandson of Rasulullah would not be accepted?" Habib charges forward and he cries out that, "Ana Habib ibn Mudahir, I am Habib, the son of Mudahir. We are the ones who are pure, and we are the ones who are on the path of truth. We have come to aid and to assist the one who is the best of people when he is remembered." Habib fights so bravely despite his old age, but it comes to a point where in the front and the back, the soldiers are attacking him, and they bring him to the ground, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam is now coming to the second one of his senior companions. He is crying, and he is weeping, and he says that this is somebody who is very dear to me. Habib was somebody who would recite the whole Quran in one night. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ قَضَى نَحْبَهُ وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَنْتَظِرُ وَمَا بَدَّلُوا تَبْدِيلًا. There are some who have fulfilled their pledge to Allah, and there are some who are waiting, and they never waver in any way. One narration says that present in Karbala was the young son Qasim of Habib. Qasim sees that the enemy soldiers behead Habib, and he then marks the soldier who is the head strung over his horse. He follows him as he makes his way to Kufa. As he goes to the palace, at a certain point, the soldier recognizes and realizes that he's being followed by this boy. He turns to him and he asks him, "Oh, my son, why are you following me? Why is it that whenever I go somewhere, you are following me?" He says that, "My name is Qasim. That head that you have on your horse, can you please give it to me? If you give it to me, I will no longer follow you. But please, that's my only request, is you give me that head." What does he say? He says, "Why do you want that head?" He says, that is the head of my father, Habib. I am his son. All I want to do is to bury the head of my father. But what does he say? He says, "If I give you the head, then the Amir will not give me that jaiza. I will not get the money and that prize for him, and he will be unhappy with me." And he says to him that, "If you would only give me that head, my father was such an excellent man." But the soldier refuses. Brothers and sisters, this is that young boy who is looking at the head of his father. It reminds me of the time when the daughters of Imam Hussein will be taken to the court of Yazid. Yazid will be trying to cover something with his body, but at a certain point they will see that behind him there is a head. They will look at that head and they will recognize that this is the head of their father Hussein. And Zainab alayhi salam will cry out, "Ya Hussein, Ya ibn Fatimat al-Zahra, Ya ibn Sayyidat al-Nisa, Ya ibn al-Mustafa." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم حسين.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. Ana Muhammad, Ana Muhammad, Ana Muhammad, Ana Muhammad, Ana Muhammad. شبیر کا تم صدقہ اب خیمے میں بیٹھا تم لوٹ کرنا نا اے آنا محمد اے آنا محمد اے آنا محمد اے آنا محمد اے ماں کو یقین تم ماں کی بات رکھو گے یہ یاد رہے خیمہ میں پیاسے بچے دریا پہ مر جانا سہراز کے پیاسوں تم پیاس نہ بجھانا اے آنا محمد اے ہر حال میں تم پہ لازم ہے شکر خدا کا اے شہزادوں ہے سب تمہارا ورثہ فرزند ہو تم زینب کے شکوہ نہیں کرنا جب زخم کوئی کھانا اے آنا محمد اے آنا محمد اے آنا محمد اے آنا محمد جب لاش اٹھا کے خیمے میں لائے سرور زینب یہ بولی عشقا کو اپنا چھپا کے میں بھی نہ تمہیں رہوں گی اور میرے لیے بھی آنسو نہ تم بہانا اے آنا محمد اے آنا محمد اے آنا محمد اے آنا محمد حسین 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 حسین
گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں 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 کاٹو نہ میرا خشک گلا ہاں کاٹو نہ میرا خشک گلا میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں سوکھی ہوئی ہے شمر میرے حلق کی رگیں سوکھی ہوئی ہے شمر، میرے حلق کی رگیں، آہستہ تو چھری کو چلا، ہاں آہستہ تو چھری کو چلا، میں حسین ہوں گونجی بابا کے عصر صدا، میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا، میں حسین ہوں۔ اماں کسی نے پانی کی ایک بوند بھی نہ دی، اماں کسی نے پانی کی ایک بوند بھی نہ دی، میں بار بار کہتا رہا، ہاں میں بار بار کہتا رہا، میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا، میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا، میں حسین ہوں۔ اے شامیوں کفن نہ دیا مجھ کو غم نہیں، اے شامیوں کفن نہ دیا مجھ کو غم نہیں، دے دو میری بہن کو ردا، دے دو میری بہن کو ردا، میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا، میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا، میں حسین ہوں۔ زانوں پہ رکھ کے سر کو کہا ایک ضعیف نے، زانوں پہ رکھ کے سر کو کہا ایک ضعیف نے، اکبر کہاں ہے جلد بتا، ہاں اکبر کہاں ہے جلد بتا، میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا، میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا، میں حسین ہوں۔ کاٹو نہ میرا خشک گلا، ہاں کاٹو نہ میرا خشک گلا، میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا،